So let's take a case which actually diverges. That's my x-axis, my y-axis, and let me draw my y equal to x. Let me take a case which actually has a slope larger than 1 and then show you that it diverges. So let's consider this case. So this is the y, and you can see it has a fairly large slope. So we'll start with a guess. Let's say this is the solution at level I. So we are going to call it xi. So geometrically, if you see, you are going to approach this guy now, and this would be x I plus 1. So this is where we would go, and then if you draw a line here, this is where it would hit the line again, and this would be xi plus 2, and you can see you will diverge. So this one, the slope is actually greater than 1, and this one diverges. So what you can show is that if you have a contraction operator, then the fixed point iteration works. It is first order accurate. That's the order of convergence. But if you have something which is not a contraction operator, then the fixed point problem, this fixed point iteration does not work, it diverges. Okay, now let me show you another method which is a little bit more demanding, but it has faster convergence. So we are going to talk about the Newton-Raphson method. Sometimes it is also known as the Newton's method. It's a fairly popular method, and we will show that it is actually second order accurate. So it has a much higher order of convergence. So we will study it first for a scalar problem, and then we will try to generalize it to a vector problem. So let's say our model problem is nd equal to f, and we are trying to find the d which satisfies this equation. So let's put this in the increment form. So I am going to write this as n di plus delta di equal to f. And now I am going to use the Taylor series expansion. So if I expand this in terms of the derivatives, there will be many terms, but I will ignore the second order terms and I will only retain the first order terms. So this I am going to approximate as following. So I will write this as n of di plus the derivative of n. So I am going to just write it as dn evaluated at di times delta di, this is f. So in fact this is some kind of an approximation, this is not exact, so I have already written this in approximation, and our notation is that dn of d is actually del n by del d evaluated at some d. So if you want to call it at I, it is evaluated at I. So this is going to be our template that we will use, and from this we can infer that delta di is actually di plus 1 minus di, and that is going to be given as f minus n di, and I am going to divide this with dn, which is also evaluated at di. So that's your Newton-Raphson method. So geometrically, we can show it like this. So this is my, let's say, axis. Suppose I want to call it x, and over here I have n x minus f. Then what we are looking at is, so if this is my function, and I am interested in this as the root, okay, where nx minus f goes to 0, so that's the x I am looking at. So I have replaced x and d, okay, so d has been replaced with x. And suppose this is my initial guess, x0. So what is being said is that I draw a tangent here. So let's say this is a tangent, and because this is the slope, so I am actually getting this as my delta x. So this therefore is going to be my x1, and then I get this point, then I draw the slope here, and then this is going to give me x2, and so on and so forth. So that's your Newton-Raphson method. Okay. So by using the slope, you can actually approach the exact root. So here is the result as far as the convergence properties are concerned. So I am going to write it down for you, and then we are going to prove it. So if I can show that first dn is not equal to 0 in the interval, and I can show that dn of x inverse times d square n x is bounded, and let's say it's a constant, and let me call this constant as 2c, and if there is a third condition which is on c E0 is actually less than 1, that means I have a sufficiently close initial guess. So if my derivative does not go to 0 anywhere in the interval, and I can further satisfy the boundedness of the second derivative and the inverse of the first derivative in this manner, and if I take a sufficiently close initial guess, okay, then I can be guaranteed that my Newton-Raphson method it converges and is second order accurate. So unlike the fixed point iteration which was first order accurate, so this one would be second order, and therefore the convergence is going to be extremely quick. You are going to need much fewer nonlinear iterations as compared to the fixed point iteration method. Of course, the downside is that you need an estimate of the slope. In the fixed point iteration, you don't need that. So what is the definition of second order accurate? Let me just review it for you. That my error at level I plus 1 is going to be less than c times e to the I of square. So k is equal to 2 here. So let's show this result. So I am going to start with f, which is essentially n of d, and I am going to write this as n of di plus delta di, where delta di is the increment on di. Okay, so I already know di, and this is the correction that I am seeking. So let me expand this in terms of Taylor series. So this would be n of di, that is the first term, plus I would get the derivative dn, which is evaluated at di times delta di, plus the second derivative, which I am going to call d square n, but this I can evaluate at some d bar times delta I square, where d bar belongs to the interval di to or between d and di. So this is exact because I have written down the second derivative at a point which is intermediate between d and di. In fact, there is a half which is missing here. There should be a factor of 2 here. Sorry about that. So I can write down E I plus 1 as d I plus 1 minus d, where d is the exact solution. And now I am going to substitute for di plus 1, which is, so I am going to write this down as di plus a delta d, and we already know what is the delta d here. So I am going to write this as dn inverse of di times f minus n of di, and this minus a d. Okay. So I use the definition of the Newton-Raphson method, that if I know di, what is di plus 1, and I just substituted for that. I am now going to substitute for f in this equation, and I will get the following. So ei plus 1 is going to be given as, so di minus d would give me simply ei plus a dn inverse of di, and the remaining terms I get are dn of di times minus ei plus half of d square n evaluated at d bar from this times ei whole square. Now I can use the operator dn inverse and simplify this. So please notice it will cancel out the first term, so I am going to get the following from this. So this is ei, and from the first term I get a minus ei, and from the second term I am going to get plus dn inverse of di times a half of d square n of d bar, and then a ei whole square. So these cancel out, and I am able to see that ei plus 1 is related to ei square and a coefficient. So let us write this down and see it a little bit more carefully. So what we have been able to show is that the error at iteration level I plus 1 is actually dn inverse at di times d square n at d bar, and this is related to errors at I whole square by 2. Now, we had made a listing in the beginning. So, we had listed 3 conditions. So, let me remind you. So, recall what are the assumptions that we made. So, the first one was about the error about the derivative not going to 0. So, dn, so first was dn is not equal to 0, which means the dn inverse exists. The second assumption we made is that the magnitude of dn inverse times d square n is less than some constant 2c. And the third one was that the initial guess was sufficiently close. So, CE0 should be actually less than 1. Okay, so these are the 3 conditions that were there, and we are supposed to show that given these 3, the Newton-Raphson method is second order accurate. So, we are going to use this one and say, well, this always exists. We are going to use the second one and say that this whole quantity has to be less than 2c. So, c is that constant. So, we are going to get from this expression that E I plus 1 is actually going to be less than c times, so I will put a modulus here, c times e raised to I whole square. Okay. Now, so this already means we are second order accurate. To further show that this actually converges, so we are going to start from E1. So, suppose I put I equal to 0, that implies that E1 is given as C E0 whole square. So, if it is sufficiently close, then I am going to have E1 also relatively small. If I put I equal to 1, then you can see I get E2 would be less than C times E1 square. But then this in turn would be less than, I can substitute for E1 over here. So, this would be C times, for E1 I will put C E0 square. Okay. So, likewise I can show finally that e raised to the I is C inverse times C E0 raised to 2 to the I. Okay, so, this is the final expression that I am going to get, and clearly this will converge if C E0 is less than 1. So, if you have a sufficiently close guess, then the Newton-Raphson is second order accurate and you can get the converged solution. So, one of the tricks in using this method is that you must start with a good guess. So, the algorithm should be flexible. If you go through the Newton-Raphson and you are not converging and you are already aware that your first derivative does not have a problem, the second derivative times this is also bounded, then perhaps it's a good idea to try another initial guess and give it a try. We now want to generalize this to a multi-degree of freedom system. So I have shown it to you for a scalar. So if you have many degrees of freedom, then how do we implement it? So now we are going to have the grand problem n d equal to f. So now I am going to talk about dn of d I plus a delta d I times a delta di. This is going to be equal to f minus n of di. Okay. So I have used the Newton-Raphson. So I have said that di plus 1 is di times a delta di, and this is how I have used the first order Taylor series expansion, and then I can write down that delta di is actually dn of di inverse times f minus nd. Okay, which of course we are going to call as the Ri. This is the residual. Okay, so it's a vector residual. And the interpretation of this matrix is quite interesting, because this is now a square matrix. So dn of di is going to be a partial derivative. So remember, n is a vector operator. So I could have several equations, and it has a vector unknown. So hopefully the number of equations and the number of unknowns that I have, they are equal eventually. This particular derivative I can write in terms of p and q, as we have seen before. So this is operator number p, and I am going to take a derivative with respect to unknown number q, and this is of course evaluated at di, and this one can also write as del n by del d. P and q are of course equation numbers. So p and q are equation numbers, and they go between 1 to any q. Okay. So we are talking about nd equal to f is some kind of a matrix. So this is a vector. N of course is a vector, f is a vector, d is a vector, but dn is a matrix where each term pq, the index runs from 1 through number of equations. So it's a square matrix. So the algorithm works like this. So given a di, I am going to form del n by del d, which I am also calling as dn, at di, and then I am going to solve this equation, which is del n del d times delta d of I. This is at di, this is r of I. And the way to solve this would be that my delta d I is simply dn of di inverse times Ri. And then the next step would be that we update that my di plus 1 is actually di plus delta d. And then I do a convergence check. By checking for the tolerance in the increment as well as the residual. If my residual is small enough, that means I have converged, and I can also check the increment if it is changing. So if I have converged, then I stop and I have the solution, and if it is not converged yet, then I go back to the step earlier and I repeat this. Okay. So today what we have done is that given a nonlinear problem, how do we iteratively solve it? We looked at two methods. The fixed point iteration, which is first order accurate. It's very simple. It doesn't need calculation of any derivative, but then it's slow, it's only first order. If you want to improve convergence, we can use the Newton-Raphson, and that's a second order method. We can also do something called a quasi Newton-Raphson. Wherein we can say that dn is being approximated. So instead of calculating the true first derivative, I can get an approximate estimate of the first derivative and use that. And then of course I am not going to be second order accurate, I am going to be somewhere between first and second order accurate. Okay. All right, we will stop here, and then in the next class we are going to start talking about how to move to fluid mechanics, because now we have seen linear problems, non-linear problems, how to handle time dependence, how to handle higher order shape functions and so on. Thank you very much.